All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. And yep, we're still coming to you from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, which is about 40 minutes north of Buffalo, where they've had 7 feet of snow. I'm not talking inches, my friends. I'm talking 7 feet of snow. They had in 24 hours what they usually get in 2 winters over there. So I guess what the scientists are saying is false, that, this is more proof that global warming isn't real.
Brr.
Brr. Speaking about what's real and what's not real, my guest this hour is my good friend Corey Kay. And Corey and I have had the pleasure of working together over the many years. And hey, buddy, welcome back to the show.
Welcome back. It actually got cold here in Florida.
What do you consider cold?
We actually, for a few hours while I was sleeping, we actually got into the 30s, but I slept through the whole thing.
Oh, there you go. So you hibernated.
That's right.
Hey, Corey, today President Obama was on the television doing a national address. Mind you, the only networks that picked him up were the cable networks. The ABC and the major networks didn't carry the speech. But what did you take away from watching that?
Basically, he did outline his plan for an executive order. I didn't miss my shows. I should mention that. I watched it after the fact. But basically, he's going to allow illegal immigrants who have been in the U.S. for 5 years or longer and who have a kid to apply for 3-year work visas.
So what happens after the 3 years?
That is up in the air. It will have to be determined by a future administration.
Now, as I understand U.S. law, after this tenure, his second term in office, the next president of the United States can actually come into office and say, no, I don't want that anymore.
That's right. And I actually think with the recent midterm election that the Republicans are going to try to block or reverse that executive order. And it's kind of strange. I'll tell you what's particularly strange about this order. The immigrants have to be able to pass a background check, but I guess the question I have is, if they are undocumented, how do they conduct that background check?
Well, I guess they could do it through fingerprinting and DNA.
Yeah, if they've been arrested, for instance, before, and maybe even deported before, and then they came back over again, I could see that happening.
Was this Obama's attempt on getting the Latino vote in the next election to guarantee the Republicans remain in power?
Basically, he would be trying to get the Democrats to come back to power if he's seen as being easy on immigration. That could attract the Hispanic vote. That's been an argument. And in fact, Presidents Reagan and George H.W. Bush did something like that in the 80s.
I always get the Democrats and the Republicans mixed up. President Obama is a Republican or a Democrat?
He is a Democrat, but you are not alone. We have this term Republicrats, and a lot of people on the ground, people I talk to at work, they did not vote in this last election because they don't see much difference anymore either.
Really? Unbelievable. And there's so much going on in the world today. We have the crisis in, in Ferguson, Missouri, where they're just waiting to hear what the grand jury is going to say. But we just learned a few minutes ago, Corey, before we went to air. Just let me pull up that news article. Ferguson, Missouri police officer Darren Wilson is in the final stages of negotiations with city officials to resign. And this is according to people close to the talks. Wilson is a white police officer who shot and killed Michael Brown, a black teen, in Ferguson on August the 9th. I've often said, what would have happened if Darren Wilson would have been black and Michael Brown would have been white? Would there be these riots? Would there be this big kerfuffle? Of course not. I don't understand it, my friend. I really don't. You and I have to take a commercial break. We'll be back on the other side. Exo Nation, Corey K is our guest. And you can find out a lot about Corey, and you can ask him questions about computer technology at www.exonetechzone.com. We'll be back on the other side of this 2-minute break. Whatever you do, don't go away. Welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. Corey K is our guest, www.exonetechzone.com. Hey, Corey, there's been a number of major hacks lately. The State Department, the White House. My goodness.
It's crazy. I can't believe how close they're coming. It's the unclassified email system of the State Department has been hacked, and that is getting way too close for comfort. What's very disturbing, 800,000 U.S. Postal Service employees have had some of their data, including their Social Security numbers, hacked. And that is all an identity thief needs. Once you have that social, it is all over for you. You better act quickly to counteract them.
Is the hacking being traced to Russia or China? Because apparently things aren't going that well between the U.S. and those two countries.
Not at all. It's definitely been traced to Russia and China, and the security firms are saying that the hackers are so well organized, and they're seeing evidence of a funding level that's so big that there really has to be government involvement. And they even caught a Chinese hacker that went by the name of Ugly Gorilla a few months ago, and he was directly linked to the Chinese military, and he's being tried for economic espionage, and he actually was able to hack a U.S. public utility company.
You know, I also heard, Corey, that one of the major problems with the government sites and the government servers is that they are not keeping up with the newest technology when it comes to security.
They're not. And I'll tell you what's been frightening for me. I work for one of the big 5 computer manufacturers, and I worked for a time, and I still sit right next to them. I work for the division that deals with all government agencies, and some of them are just now upgrading away from Windows XP, which is very frightening. The public has been notified of this change for years, and XP is a sitting vulnerability. A lot of older servers are being used. The Heartbleed vulnerability, it's not properly being patched. It's like nobody's keeping up. And I think in some cases, some big companies might have vulnerabilities that a small company doesn't. And I'll tell you why. A small company, their big hurdle is they may not be able to afford to keep up, but with a big company, they can afford it, but because they're so big, nobody knows whose responsibility that security is. The lines aren't being drawn as clearly as they need to, and everyone can say, well, that's not my responsibility, that's not my responsibility, and they keep passing the buck. So businesses of all sizes have their weaknesses right now.
But you'd think the government of the United States or any other government would make sure that its systems are totally protected because of the sensitivity of the information that they hold.
Yeah, you would think so. And in the last few years, government at all levels has been cut. Not so much at the federal level, that's been increasing, but definitely local agencies have faced cuts. That is relaxing quite a bit in the last year or two, and they really need to consider funding for good cybersecurity experts. New majors or college majors are coming out all the time now. You can actually get a degree now in cyber forensics, and I think government agencies need to snatch up more graduates of these programs.
Well, you think that would come as second nature to the government, for goodness sake, because not only could they use them for their own system security, but they could also use them as cyber detectives.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope we will go that way. As far as why it's going so slow, I noticed that even the most recent security books that are out there, it takes 2 or 3 years sometimes to get a book out. And by the time it goes to press, the information is already old. So, there's kind of a lag there. I think that's one contributor. Sometimes you in government agencies, much more than private businesses, you have tenure systems that may favor the older employees, which in a lot of scenarios that might be socially desirable. But for something like cybersecurity, you definitely want to keep fresh blood in there.
Now, before we went on air, you and I were chatting, as we always do, that you had some information that hasn't made the front page of the news yet.
Yeah, that's right. The front pages are telling you about the hacks and who is being hacked. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have a lot of information on the how of it, and I do have some information here as far as the U.S. Postal Service hack. The security researchers are now saying that the hackers actually were able to access a virtual private network that the U.S. Postal Service was using, and it's unclear whether they sort of guessed a user's credential. It could be that a user on that network was using a weak, easily guessable password, and they did that, or if somebody with bad intent gained physical access to one of the U.S. Postal Service machines and put a device on there that could log keystrokes and transmit that information. But they're saying that it was a virtual private network hack.
Why would anyone want to hack into the U.S. Postal Service?
In this case, they wanted the employee data. They're thinking, hey, the U.S. Postal Service is a government agency. We don't like the government. We want to do it harm. So if we steal Postal Service employees' data, we can ruin their lives and therefore hurt that agency.
So it's almost like an act of terrorism.
It is. It's cyber terrorism, and it's not fair to the individual postal workers, and it's not going to work. People actually don't have a lot of faith in the U.S. Postal Service anymore. They still, fulfill a good function, but thinking that you're going to weaken a government by attacking the postal services, it's a little bit misguided, in my opinion.
Yes, especially in today's society when everything is cyber. And that, when you look at the postal service, you're looking at basically a dinosaur just heading to extinction.
Yeah. And there's twin motives here. The governments of Russia and China, they might be thinking along those lines, and they'll fund the hackers for that reason. Meanwhile, you might have cyber criminal organizations that are being funded by the government, and they're driven more by a profit motive. So they want to steal their credentials for financial gain. So there's a little bit of both going on.
Let's see, the last time you and I talked, we were talking about the hack at Dairy Queen.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And let's see. Michael's is another store that was hacked. The list is kind of growing, but still in I don't have any good November data, but still as of October, a lot of chain stores have not patched themselves against the kind of malware that was used in those attacks.
So let's see, we've had Target, we've had Walmart, we've had the Cloud, we've had Dairy Queen, we've had, Home Depot was hacked, I believe.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And then we also had just recently the U.S. Postal Service. So you'd think that the IT departments would be getting on to the powers to be and say, hey, we need this software, we need to secure our sites, let's do it, gang, because who suffers? The people whose information are stored on those sites.
Yeah, that's right. And it could be that as a way of cost cutting, a lot of companies are sort of exhausting their IT departments by having them basically improve their speed and their data processing and data analyzing capabilities. Cybersecurity now is it's always been a separate branch, but you used to go to a university, learn computer science, and it would include a little cybersecurity and a little data analysis. Now they're trying to hire all-in-one people that know a little bit of both, and really what they need to do is hire data analysts and cybersecurity experts separately. You need a specialist in one or the other, and kind of change the way that you hire those type of experts, in my opinion.
Corey, you and I have to take a commercial break at the bottom of the hour. Stand by, old friend. Exonation Corey K is our special guest, and if you have any computer questions, if you have any inquiries, if you'd like to get Corey's suggestion when it comes to computers, hardware, and software, go to www.xzonetechzone.com and post your questions on the forum. That's www.xzonetechzone.com. This is the X Zone. My name is Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide toll free 800-610-7035. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On all social media sites, X Zone Radio TV, and our main website where you can listen to the X Zone 724 365, www.xzoneradiotv.com. And now you can call in to listen to the X Zone on your landline or your cell phone. Area code 213-401-0080. Corey K. and I return on the other side of this news break. Don't go away. Welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. Corey K. is my special guest, a good friend. I've had the pleasure of working in radio with Corey for, how many years now? 10, 12 years, Corey?
10 years,
My
if
goodness.
you can believe it.
Yeah, 10 years. I still remember the year that we went down to WPGS 840 in Titusville and worked with you doing the, what was it, New Year's Eve show?
New Year's
Eve,
and we were live at the space shuttle.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. It was really great meeting you and the fine people at WPGS, and that was one heck of a big party they threw.
Oh, yeah, and I bet you never experienced a warmer January.
That's true. Mind you, we had come back home to a very cold January, but we had a great time. Corey, I find it funny that the Chinese hacker's name was the Ugly Gorilla, and then you've got the the Russian hacker who used the handle Energetic Bear. Now, if you were a hacker, what name would you give yourself?
Oh, I would be the Happy Chaos Monkey.
I thought you'd be the Corey K-Man or something like that.
Oh, yeah, the Kool-Aid Man.
Oh, geez. Now, there's another story. Good old Bill Cosby and, 14 allegations of rape now? Or sexual assault?
Oh, my goodness, it's so scary. And I'll tell you, I was completely naive to this fact.
Yeah.
I had never even heard of Bill Cosby being mixed up in that, and it was so difficult for me to believe because in the 80s he was sort of the symbol of middle-class common affluence and the American dream in action. So to see him mixed up with this is definitely disheartening. And I'll tell you what's so troubling. It's at first I didn't want to believe it, but the people that are coming out with this information and the details, they seem, for most of these reports, they seem very credible to me. You may or may not like Janice Dickinson, but I found her story credible. And Lou Ferrigno, I don't know if you've ever seen Lou Ferrigno, but his wife came forward, and I would not want Lou Ferrigno to be mad at me.
Oh, no, it's not, especially if he changes from Bill Bixby into the Hulk.
Yeah, exactly.
He's a big man.
Oh, my.
Yeah, you have to wonder what goes through the mind of some people. Like, all right, so you're rich, so you're famous. You don't take advantage of people.
Yeah, it's awful.
Now, how we were talking about security, and you mentioned something about security servers.
That's right. The Energetic Bear is it's not just a single Russian or even a Russian cyber criminal syndicate. They're actually naming some of their software suite after themselves. It's the Energetic Bear. And what's so scary about this group and this software is they are actually compromising security update servers. And even though most update servers have patched themselves now against Heartbleed, in the early days of Heartbleed, we're finding out now, they use the vulnerability to compromise a security update server. So companies that thought that they were patching themselves against security threats were actually downloading Trojans onto their system, and these Trojans allowed these Russian groups to spy remotely on these servers.
So why aren't these servers better protected? It makes no sense to me. Somebody's asleep at the switch.
Yeah, and you almost have to have constant monitoring, and the hackers have to be very crafty because let's say on a web server you are hosting a picture and 100,000 people want to see this picture. You're going to see a lot of activity and a lot of requests for downloads of this picture. A crafty hacker can enter at those peak times, and if you're dealing with all this traffic anyways, it may be harder to pick out this attack. So we need to get better at detecting these attacks as they happen, maybe even appoint more people. I think cybersecurity is going to get very fine-grained and specialized in the coming decades. And you might actually have experts that focus on one type of traffic versus another, but you may need teams of monitors, human monitors watching this. You will have some software monitoring these processes, but all software that monitors web traffic, they use some kind of a shortcut method or algorithm for discovering what is normal versus abnormal traffic. And the hackers are really good at discovering what those algorithms are. So it's almost a never-ending game of back and forth that you're playing. But we do have to be more careful, because if the security update servers themselves are being compromised, then we're really in a lot of trouble.
You know, we're coming up to the Christmas season, Corey, and I was wondering if you had any ideas on what a mom or dad might want to purchase within the computer genre that you and I talk about when you're on with us for Christmas this year. What's hot and what's not?
Well, I think that even though a lot of tablets are going to sell, I think tablets, if they're not on their way out, they should be. I think we're going to see a return to desktops, but not desktops that we've seen in the past, not the small desktops. We're going to see extra small desktops coming around. There are models that we've just seen just before they're released to the public, and they're the size of a paperback novel or the size of a router. It's I'm just floored by how small these computers are.
How about cell phones? What's the latest with Apple and their latest one?
Oh, yeah. It's the iPhone 6 is going to be their product going through the Christmas season, because the competition from Android is so fierce. On some carriers, they're practically giving them away. And there's actually a side story underneath that. Companies that have signed on with Apple to manufacture parts for the iPhone and other Apple products now, they have been entering unfavorable contracts, and they're actually going bankrupt. There was the one company that made those sapphire screens, but now there's yet another company that was making components, I believe memory components for some iMacs, and they're going bankrupt. And they're saying some of the same things, that Apple promised them one thing and then changed their mind later.
How about the different gaming devices for the home that kids use, like the Xbox? And
now, this is very interesting. The PlayStation, Xbox are very hot. They're going to be the hot products of this season, and there is a price war going on. Now, one interesting side story there, Walmart has recently adopted a policy where they will match the prices of their competitors. Well, people were actually setting up fake websites with fake low prices for some of these video game consoles, and people were trying to buy PlayStation for $90. So Walmart actually had to reverse their policy on the video game consoles.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. So what do you think the next hot gizmo is going to be?
Ooh, I guess the space right now is ripe for innovation, but for the short term, I'm going to say extra small form factor desktops, those desktops that are as small as a router.
Wow.
And the flops right now on clearance, they're going to try to liquidate them this Christmas season, but there were some video game consoles that were supposed to be not just competitors to PlayStation and the Xbox, but they were supposed to be competitors with Apple, competitors with Windows, and they are, I don't think they're going to hit at all. And one such example, Alienware, which is actually owned by Dell, they are trying to get rid of on clearance their Alienware Steam boxes, which they actually use a very specific proprietary gaming system that is popular with many gamers, but the problem with it is it excludes people who buy Xbox or PlayStation games. They can't use all these games that they've purchased and spent a lot of money for on these Steam boxes. And really, they just don't offer enough selection, and I think they're going to flop. And a lot of manufacturers are going to try to dump them at really good prices this year.
Wow. What are the objects to stay away from?
Steam boxes are one. I would even say some of the new Google offerings like Chrome boxes. I would stay away from them because they don't do enough. They're not your all-in-one solution. They're trying hard to be, but they're selling you a second or third rate product, and they just haven't done enough. A Chrome box, I should mention, it has Google Chrome, so you can access the internet, which is good. They have Google Docs, which has a word processing, a spreadsheet, and a PowerPoint-like presentation software that you can use and share. So, the idea behind it is strong enough, but I feel that Microsoft Office is so good that Google Docs is really third rate compared to them.
So are they going to come out with a new version of Windows? Let's see, it's version 8 now, or is it 10?
Well, that's the interesting thing. They're going to skip right over 9 and go straight to 10.
And how big of a hassle is changing from your Windows 7 or your Windows 8 to go up to 10? And will it affect all the software?
It's going to affect it a little bit, but not more than Windows 8. There's still a lot up in the air, but I'll tell you what a lot of people don't know. Let's say you have a Windows 7 or below system and you want to upgrade to 8. It's not always a straightforward process. Sometimes you can... Or you can't. Actually, downgrading is not a straightforward process. You have to have a special motherboard in some cases to be able to use Windows 8, and there's no guarantee that Windows 10 is going to use those same boards. So they may, in the future, force a hardware upgrade, but it's yet to be seen. Let me put it that way.
You know what I found out? Something that rather sent me for a bit of a loop. As you know, Corey, the show is now available on iHeart and the Clear Channel and CBS. Here in Canada, we cannot access iHeart. We're blocked.
That's terrible.
I don't understand why.
I don't either. Somebody must feel that their turf is being threatened, but I hope in the future we see freer access to those services.
Yeah, and what do you think President Obama has been talking about controlling the internet? I don't know if you've heard about that, and I was wondering if you could shed any light to what they're planning on doing.
Well, I'll tell you what's scary. I'm starting to see a hysteria around internet control that I haven't seen in a long time. The FBI is actually saying that iPhone users who are using this new, really good, really secure encryption mechanism, they're saying that if you buy into that encryption mechanism, you're actually enabling child predators, or you're murdering children. Gosh. And I think it's a little hysterical. But as far as the Obama move, he came out in favor of net neutrality, which a lot of people have been against. It's a very contentious issue. And
what is it?
Even net neutrality is the idea that no company can create what's called an internet fast lane. You can't buy into faster speeds. And there's more to it than that. The one interpretation of net neutrality is no ISP can block the content of another. It sounds really benign on the surface, but it could be used as a way to actually block certain content in the future. That's something we could spend a whole show on. But
well, right now we've got to take our commercial break, my friend. Corey, it's always great talking to you. You know, I enjoy our talk. It's like two old friends, which we are, sitting down, discussing, and helping people at the same time. Always great talking to you, buddy. Exonation, Corey K is our special guest. If you have any questions about computers, if you'd like to ask Corey a question, all you have to do is go to exonetechzone.com. And Corey and I will be back on the other side of this commercial break as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away. Corey K is our special guest, www.exonetechzone.com. And Corey, would the net neutrality have anything to do with blocking the ability of organizations such as ISIS from, being using their computers as marketing tools or recruitment tools to the United States and Canada?
It actually could if individual ISIS members or cells, any type of ISIS affiliated organization, if they bought a website or web service, you could actually block, on certain networks. If you had Comcast, for instance, Comcast could block that content. If you had Verizon could block that content. And passing net neutrality could be a way of unifying that policy. I guess the downside of net neutrality is it would apply a blanket solution. So you wouldn't have a situation where some ISPs would block the content and others wouldn't. You could actually issue blanket orders and an entire area of content like that could be blocked. And that would be, a beneficial use of it. There's also the potential for abuse, like let's say a country, and I'm not even talking about the Russias or, China's of the world, but let's say a smaller country started a social experiment that the U.S. thought was dangerous somehow, but many people agreed with. You could block that whole country from entering. I think net neutrality laws would make something like that easier.
Well, isn't that what China is doing?
Yeah, it is. It is. China controls the internet a lot. They've also allowed a lot, but boy, do they block it. My friends that actually live in China, everything I say to them could be monitored. So we kind of have superficial conversations, and I have to wait until I see them in person to get the real story.
Oh my gosh! So basically, what we're looking at is the censorship of the internet.
It is. I think net neutrality would make censorship a lot easier. And another argument against it is it actually can make quality of service harder to get. You would have less fine-tuned control over quality of the internet, but there's a lot of strong opinions either way. But I guess the irony is public opinion shifted on that in the last few years. So people who might have voted for Obama in 2008 have changed their minds. So I think he thought it would be a boon to his supporters, but there's going to be some backlash.
Wow. Hey, Corey, as always, whenever you're with us, my friend, time goes by so fast. As always, thanks for coming on the show. It's always great talking to you. And what are we going to be talking about the next time you join us?
Oh, I think we can talk about changing your webcam and baby monitor passwords, because the Russians have hacked that too.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Is nothing sacred anymore?
Nothing sacred anymore.
Oh, my good friend, you take care of yourself. Regards to the family. Say hi to Chance for me. And, of course, George, the studio cat.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Corey K. has been my guest this hour, Exo Nation, www.exonetechzone.com. I'll be back on the other side of the news at 6.5 minutes past the top of the hour as we continue here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center. Where? In Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My name is Rob McConnell. Don't go away.